Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I made a video, not because I've quit photography, but really just because I've been photographing for myself, not to make content. Although I have been doing reviews and keeping my website up to date. And so if you want to check that out, there'll be a link down in the description to that. Today I want to talk about Fujifilm and give kind of a contrary narrative to what's out, a lot of what's out there on YouTube and on the internet. In today's video, I want to talk about why Fujifilm isn't special. And just to be clear, I don't want to dunk on Fujifilm. That's not my intention. I'm actually, as proof, filming this on a XH2, which is my camera that I use for my work literally every single day. And I've used it now for, I don't know, 6 months or something like that. So not necessarily hating on Fujifilm, but want to at least make one thing clear. Maybe that will be helpful to people who, you know, have the itch to get a Fujifilm camera, have the gas, the gear acquisition syndrome, who, are just, oh, I got to get my hands on Fujifilm because everyone says it's so special. All these people saying that if I buy Fujifilm, I'll never go to another system, and Fujis are just the best, and I'm going to pay above MSRP to go get one. These are the kind of people I'm talking to, maybe to relieve that itch a little bit. One of the reasons that I'm making this video is because I can. And let me explain that a little bit to you. You know, I'm not beholden to any camera companies. Fujifilm has never lent me any gear, and I have a website, which I already mentioned, and on that website I made a commitment to my followers that all of the reviews that I do are going to be of gear that I purchase with my own money. I don't take loaners from camera companies, I don't have a relationship with camera companies, and let's just be honest, there's a lot of biased reviews out there, people reviewing Fujifilm, and they have to give it a good review because otherwise Fujifilm's not going to send them the next camera the next time a new piece of gear comes out, and they can't risk that for their business. You know, and they all say, oh, well, there's no money exchanged hands. It's like, look, I'm in business. Many of us are smart enough to realize that, yeah, sure, maybe no cash exchanged hands, but value exchanged hands, which makes your review biased. So I've got right now over 50,000 people who visit my website every month, and I think a lot of that is because I'm committed to giving unbiased reviews. So if you want to check that out, again, there's a link down in the description. Just for a little context, I've owned, I think, 5, maybe 6 Fujifilm cameras in the past. I've owned the X-T1, XH1, XH2, which I'm filming on, X100F, X100, the original, and the XT4 for a very brief period of time. So I have a lot of experience with Fujifilm. I also have a lot of experience with other cameras, which is being brought into this video. I currently shoot with Lumix, with Olympus, with Sony full frame, Lumix full frame. Just bought my first Canon. Don't have a lot of experience with it yet. Really, the only major brand that I haven't shot with is Nikon. So having tried all those other systems, I want to say to you, like, if you think that Fujifilm is just going to be like the magic ingredient that's going to make your photography amazing and going to make all your photos look magical, it's probably not. And I wanted to just briefly mention a couple things that Fuji is kind of known for that honestly I think other brands do better. So the first one, you hear it all the time, Fuji colors, Fuji colors. Fujifilm has the best color science in the world. And I would say that Fuji is up there in terms of color science. And of course, color science is subjective, so it's going to depend on each person. But for me personally, I would say Sigma. I've shot with the Sigma FP. And also Lumix, the Lumix S1, easily have better straight out of camera colors than Fujifilm. Now, of course, there's the JPEG stuff. We'll come back to that at the end of the video. But straight out of camera stuff, I think there are definitely cameras that beat Fuji in the color science arena. Another one that's been, I've heard it brought up a couple times in a couple videos. A guy made a video called "Is Fuji Getting Worse?" where he talks about the build quality of his X-T5 and build quality of Fuji in general, how it used to be really great, and now it's like, it's definitely fallen off a little bit. And I totally agree with that. I used some of the old Fujifilm cameras and they felt solid and good, and you know, they didn't have a lot of mechanical problems. And then even my XH2, I'll be honest with you, like, it's nowhere close to the best built camera that I've used. And this is essentially a flagship from Fuji. I briefly mentioned that I own the X-T4, and the reason that it was so brief was because I literally took this camera out of the box, you know, began adjusting dials and looking at the screen and putting the battery in. The camera felt so plasticky and cheap. I could not believe it. This was back when the X-T4 was kind of the flagship camera, and I could not believe that it felt like that. And I have to agree that Fujifilm absolutely does not have some of the best built cameras in the industry. I mentioned that I briefly owned the X-T4, and the reason that it was brief was because I got this camera in the mail. I opened it up out of the box. It was essentially brand new. I got it used, but like new, and I picked it up, and I could not believe how plasticky it felt. The dials, just, on the initial impression, could not believe how cheap it felt. Fujifilm absolutely does not have the best build quality in the game, and I would encourage you to go use some other people's. Even Sony's full frames feel better than Fuji's stuff. But if you want to feel a camera that's actually built really well, you want to feel good build quality, go buy yourself an Olympus. They're cheap. Go buy yourself an EM1 Mark II or 3 or the EM1X. That's a camera with good build quality. And honestly, Fuji's new stuff just isn't anywhere close. And then you've got the autofocus issue. And look, I'm no stickler when it comes to autofocus. I'm still shooting, my favorite camera to take out right now is my old Lumix G85 with contrast detect autofocus from 2015 or something. But Fujifilm, I don't know why they can't figure it out. This is one of the most advanced cameras that Fuji is offering right now. The single point autofocus or the tracking autofocus on this camera, or if I'm doing a video with more moving subjects in it, the XH2 can barely keep up, and it misses sometimes just inextricably. I do not understand why. I'm not kidding you when I say that my old EM1 Mark II from Olympus that came out in 2015 or 2016 had better autofocus than my XH2. And this is something a lot of people have complained about. Again, it's not a big deal for me. I don't demand, I'm totally fine with contrast detect. But when you pay for a flagship camera in this market, you do expect better. I expect some shaky autofocus from my 2015 cameras, but XH2, it should be better. Now, I do have to give Fuji credit where credit is due. I think one thing that they do best at, better than anybody else in the industry, is JPEGs. Not necessarily because they have the best JPEG film simulations. I actually think, and this is an unpopular opinion, that the Sigma FP has the best looking color profiles in the world. And I know not a lot of people even know about them, but I think they're amazing. I don't think it's necessarily because they have the best recipes, but they have the best implementation in the camera itself. And also really the strength of Fujifilm is in the community around the JPEG simulations and all the recipes that have been created, the apps, the websites. Just makes it so much better than any system. So if JPEG is that's your thing, that's your hill you're going to die on, that's the thing you want more than anything else in a camera, buy a Fujifilm. But if it's not, and you're considering all of these factors, I'd encourage you to look elsewhere. So I say all that to say, look, Fujifilm is great in some ways. My X-H2 is a great hybrid camera in some ways, but please don't, I would just encourage you not to pay over MSRP for a Fuji. Do not wait 6 months for a Fuji pre-order. Okay, look, this is another issue with Fujifilm, is their supply chain problems. Forever, people are on pre-orders for a year sometimes to get a hold of an X100. Look, there are so many good options out there. Whether Fujifilm's supply chain issues are artificially manufactured or whether they seriously do have that much problem keeping up with the demand, that's a debate for another video. But look, if they're going to make you wait for 100 days or 365 days for a camera, please go spend your money with a manufacturer who can put a camera in your hands today. Do not give Fujifilm your money if they can't put their supply chain together well enough to compete in the market. Give your money to somebody else, please. So anyway, that's kind of the thoughts that I had on Fujifilm and why I don't really think there's anything special about Fujifilm cameras over and above the rest of the market. So if you had the itch, maybe this will relieve it a little bit. And I did want to make it for people who, sometimes we need confirmation of our decisions. And I'm not here to confirm that you should buy a Fuji. I'm here to confirm that you don't need to buy a Fuji. There's so many other good cameras out there on the market. So that's all I got. And if you want to check out a written article that has these points in it or some of my other reviews, they are on my website and there'll be a link down in the description.